Record, the meeting for July 16th, 2013 will begin on time. It's 4:30. I would like to ask everyone to be so kind as to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Number 2, roll call, please.
Presley?
Here.
Bejas?
Here.
Myrick?
Here.
Alpert?
Here.
Lambert?
Here. Number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. And there is none. Communication. Any communication? You do? Okay.
I think there was one.
Okay, 2. Is this it? Is this a communication?
No, that's for new business.
Okay, new business, okay. The minutes for June 18, 2013, July the 2nd, 2013.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner.
make a motion for approval of the June 18, 2013 minutes as well as July 2nd, 2013.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Presley? Yes. Bejas?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, we do have a communication.
Right behind the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Got it?
Commissioners, in your packet, you have a letter dated July 8th from a Judy, I'm going to say her name wrong, Hughes. And she submitted a letter to the city. I don't know if do we have to read the communication out loud, Nicole? Is that how it works? Okay, so I'll go ahead and read the letter. Again, July 8th, 2013. It says, Marilyn Green, age 86, at 541 173rd Street, Hammond, Indiana, 46324. My mother obtained a home improvement loan in 2007-2008 from the Commission. She was diagnosed with dementia in 2012. She currently resides in a facility in Hobart, Indiana. I'm trying to sell her house to support her to continue to live in the facility. The house has been listed for several months by a local realtor. There have been no showings to date. She currently has a first mortgage of $32,000 with Freedom Mortgage and your second mortgage of $28,000. The total for these mortgages appear to be greater than the current market value of the house. My only source of income is Social Security, which makes it impossible for me to make her payments for her. I talked to Jennifer in your office and she told me to write this letter to see what could be done. Her monthly expense at the facility exceeds $3,000 per month and she will soon run out of funds. Is it possible to release your mortgage so we can lower the asking price of the house and get it sold? Your assistance in this matter would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Judy Hughes, 8660 Harrison Avenue, Munster, Indiana, 46321. What I would suggest, Commissioners, is we take this back since this is the first I've seen the letter, and we could talk in our department and with our attorneys and then make a recommendation potentially at the next meeting.
Just make a motion to table it, right? Yes, sir.
Madam
Refer to
President,
staff. Yes, Commissioner.
make a motion to table this.
Second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. Number 6, homebound conditional forgivable loan approval.
Commissioners, this is for the 2 homebound conditional forgivable loan approvals for Nicole Foxworth and Monica Aguilera, and they are both present.
Would you like to step up?
Nicole, Monica? Nicole already resides in Hammond, and Monica is moving from Lansing to Hammond.
Welcome, Monica. Thank you. Questions, Commissioner?
So how did you ladies hear about the program?
How did you hear about the program?
Through my realtor.
Who's your realtor? Realtor, not realtor. Who's your realtor?
Well, mine is Jada Caldwell, Jada DeMoss.
I never heard of them. That's okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, I don't have any questions. But that's just a question I always ask, you know, because sometimes we hear from the Go Hammond website, realtor, you know. Somebody even told us from the phone. One thing. Yeah. So we just always, you know, inquisitive minds want to know. Anyone else have any questions for these ladies?
Any more discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner.
I make a motion to approve the homebound conditional forgivable loan approval for both applicants.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Number 7, subordination request approval for 3.
Commissioners, this is for 3 subordination requests approval. Is Philip Ford here? I think that's the only one I'm waiting on. Do you guys want to wait, Philip Ford?
Are you going to this aside until for a while and make it?
Yeah.
Give him a chance to
Okay.
arrive. Okay. All right, well, number 8, approval of NSP 3 abatement bid for 7417 Maplewood Avenue.
Madam President, Commissioners, Friday we had the opening of bids and review of the bids for the abatement of an NSP property, NSP 3 property located at 7417 Maplewood. After reviewing the bids, those there decided to recommend Industrial Insulation Solutions bid of $5,570 for the abatement of that property, which consists of lead-based paint abatement, mold abatement, and asbestos abatement. They're recommending that as approval to this commission. And before you should have a packet that states all the contractors that did bid on the property and the amounts of their respective bids.
Any questions? Dennis, Commissioners? Discussion?
I'm confused. Dennis, can you go back over both of these for me? Because I guess she was passing them out while you were speaking, and I'm trying to catch up.
There is a bid recap for abatement, and then there's a bid recap for rehab.
Okay.
It's stated in the upper right-hand corner of the graph, if you will, or of the form.
Okay.
And right now, we're looking for, or what we have done is recommended approval of Industrial Insulation Solutions, Inc., and their bid of $5,570 as to the awardee, if you will, of the abatement bid.
Any more discussion?
I guess, Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner.
I'll just do one at a time. Then for number 8, I make a motion for approval of the NSP 3 abatement bid for 7417 Maplewood Avenue.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passed.
Thank you. The second bid group was for the rehabilitation of the same property, again, 7417 Maplewood. The bids were reviewed, recorded, and the lowest bid by Havmac Construction, the amount of $88,994, was reviewed in its entirety by the staff there, and it is recommended that the award for the rehab of that property be given to Hammond Construction in the amount of $88,994.
Madam President?
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for approval of the NSP 3 rehab bid for Hammond Construction at 7417 Maplewood Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes, all commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Number 9, approval of NSP 3 rehab, oh, same thing. Okay, we had 8 and 9. Number 10, determination of compliance with Woodmar Gateway Economic Development Area Plan for Walmart.
Commissioners, in your packet, you have a site plan and a letter from our city planner, Ryan Poland. We've discussed this project a little bit in the past, but basically today you have Walmart proposing a new, larger Walmart in the city of Hammond at what would be considered the Cabela's development area. This project, this building will be approximately 190,000 square feet and would be located just west and a little south of the Cabela's department store that's there already. We have representatives here from Walmart that are part of their engineering team. So I know I can see Brunessa, if she wants to come up to the podium. She could talk a little bit about the project, or Mike Pierce as well, come on up. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. Well, as many of you are familiar, the Cabela's property is over 100 acres, and Cabela's sits on the north end of it with about 150,000 square foot store itself. When they built this property was in the floodplain. They elevated the store to be able to build. Since then, a Lomar has been received, and the rest of the project can be developed. But Walmart, which would have a similar sized building to the one on the north end of town, which that one's about 185,000 feet. This would be about the same. We would take the next southern parcel adjacent to the Cabela's with the storefront oriented to where it faces Indianapolis Boulevard and Cabela Drive, whereas the Cabela's, which is right here, faces south. The Walmart would then face Indianapolis and Cabela Drive. It would allow for a future phase 3 here for additional retail to complete the Cabela's project. There'd be some green space in between the Cabela's and the Walmart, and as you can see, there's a lot of heavy landscaping behind the store to help provide some buffering to the housing and the bike trail, etc. Here's although it's probably a little harder to see from where you're at, here's a picture of the elevation. The storefront up top, you can see a significant amount of the quick brick, which we had been guided by the city to implement as part of the building material. It's predominant in the storefront. The next elevation is the back of the building. CMU units in different colors with the earthly tones, which blend well with the nature and the trees and what have you back there. And then we've got our right elevation, which would face Cabela's, and about half of that elevation is racks, for your outdoor, your mulch and what have you. And then the rest of it is the TLE, the Tire Lube Express, which is where they have their auto services. And then the left side of the elevation, which would face the future phase 3 development, we added a significant amount of quick brick to that side of the elevation as well, because that would be more prominent as people pull into the project, and you'll see that side of the building more so than the back or the right side. So we spent a lot of time with the city discussing what you'd like to see here, and we've really come up with an elevation that I think far exceeded everyone's expectations.
Just a couple additional things to note on the site plan. Coming off of Cabela Drive, we have two proposed full access locations. One kind of right as you make the curve, as you make the turn into Cabela's, and then one about halfway in between Cabela's main access and the curve. Couple of things to point out about around the building itself. Similar to the Robertsdale store, you have two main entries to the store. One that we refer to as general merchandise and one we refer to as grocery. And Jeff can explain with the building elevations how the entries are signed to help people understand if you were going for more for groceries, you might want to park near this entrance, or more for household goods, park near this entrance. And then also the garden center area has an entrance that's open during seasonal months of the year. On the left elevation, as Mike described with the quick brick, you also have a drive-through pharmacy, which is a little bit different from the North Store. We don't have that there. So here we have the drive-through pharmacy. The garden center wraps the right side, and then as Mike said, the TLE, Tire Lube Express. And then we've got the truck docks in the back. In working with staff on the landscaping, we've supplied evergreen trees, plantings all around the area of the TLE and all of the loading activities to screen visually and help buffer acoustically the sound of the development from the residents on North Coast. In addition to the evergreen trees and the shrubs and plantings right up near the building, we're also adding a row of tree plantings all along the bike path and the levee. So a little bit further away from the building, a little closer to the back side of the houses, which will help improve their visual buffer because the trees will be closer to the backyards. So we've got that. And then in addition to that, we've got the open space in between the Cabela's and the Walmart, just adding a few trees there where we would be removing the existing trees, so replacing what's there today in that area. I'm going to go over elevations.
I don't know that there's anything, they've kind of both touched on elevations. I don't know if there's anything else we need to talk about from an architectural standpoint. So,
Commissioners, obviously we've been in discussions with Walmart for quite a while. Although there's many aspects of this project that are very important to us, there were a few in particular that we paid very close attention to. One is the brick detail on the front of the building and on the south side of the building, because those were obviously the front, everybody will see, and the south is probably the most exposed wall as far as the north and the west side of the building goes as well. So we're very happy with the brick detail that we're getting in the front and on the south side, and Walmart worked with us and their team to make that happen, so we're pleased with that. And then you saw in the site plan, there's a lot of landscaping, and we did that on purpose. The Cabela's area and the bike path is a beautiful area. A lot of people like to walk and jog and ride their bikes and whatnot on the path. So it was very important to us that when they're on that bike path, that they're not going to see the back of a building, but really see a lot of landscaping. It's going to be a lot of buffer there. And there's homes on Northcott that we were concerned with as well. Even though they have a berm and that would block most of the visibility, we wanted to make sure that there was as much landscaping as we possibly could get. And again, Walmart and their team really came through and listened to our requests, and that's why we have the plan in front of us that we have today. So we're very excited. As you can remember, a number of things had to happen for this Walmart to even have the opportunity to locate at this site, one of which was the renegotiation of the agreement with Cabela's that we had last year for even have the possibility of this project to happen. So with that, obviously Cabela's is a very large retail draw to this area. Having this Walmart is only going to add to that. We feel that the development around the Cabela's and Walmart is going to fill up relatively quickly. We get some of that information from other experts who know more about that than we do. One of the concerns of this project, obviously, with this Walmart opening up is the Walmart at the Woodmar site is going to eventually close its doors, And we've been assured by the Walmart team that they're going to do everything possible to fill that old Walmart box as quickly as possible, and to the point where there's actually been talk of certain retailers potentially moving in after Walmart closes its doors there. So that also made us happy.
And to elaborate on your point, Phil, we appreciate the opportunity to join Cabela's at this project. You know, we understand that we weren't necessarily approved from the beginning. As such, we were told we want this to be a showpiece. What you're seeing here today with all this quick brick, a lot of different materials, a lot of glazing, there's no question it'll be the nicest looking Walmart in Northwest Indiana.
Will it be the biggest?
It's the, pardon me.
Will it be the biggest? Is that the question? By definition, no, because the prototype that Walmart used to do back when some of the other stores, like I want to say Portage, that was a 195, which is roughly 204,000 square feet. Walmart's not building those anymore. So the largest proto they currently build is a 180, and that's what this is. And it comes out to about 185, 186,000. They just found a way to make it a little more efficient. But if you walked in a 195 and you walked in a 180, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Well, the pharmacy drive-thru, is that something new Walmart is doing? I've never seen one in a Walmart.
Yeah, the new store, they want it on all the new stores. Can't always get it, but it's very successful, especially with the $4 scripts. Yeah, it's a nice amenity for the community.
Save a lot of congestion inside the store, absolutely. Any more questions?
Yeah, you were saying that this will be phase 2. Do you have any, and you may not be able to answer this, but phase 3, who is there proposed tenants for phase 3? Or?
When we planned the Walmart, we gave thought to the phase 3 to make sure we positioned the box and made the box as efficient as possible to make it most conducive for the next phase of development. In fact, our parking ratio on here is lower than it is on the North Store, and we did that to make this as efficient as possible, which also allowed for more retail on phase 3. So we kept it in mind when this was planned to maximize the residual property, because we know it's important to the city.
And has there been any traffic studies about increased traffic?
Well, the good news here is technically speaking, this is a Cabela Drive address. So it's not an Indianapolis Boulevard address, so there's a lot of ability for stacking on Cabela Drive versus being jammed up on Indianapolis Boulevard. So the off-site work on Indianapolis Boulevard and even the Cabela Drive was done, and that was planned for when Cabela's did the original project. So yeah, well, that was not an issue.
I don't have any.
I'm very excited that it's coming. I'm tired of going to another town to shop at Walmart and for groceries. And it's really going to be a good thing for our city.
Well, and you need something to anchor that south side of the interstate, because with the theater that got knocked down and never built and a Kmart that's been vacant,
Right.
you got Cabela's by itself.
Yeah, so I think that will also help.
Yeah, you need some help
Cabela,
to
yeah.
regentrify.
Absolutely. More questions?
Commissioners, if there's no other questions, if there is, continue. Obviously, our city planner, Brian Poland, wrote a recommendation letter to us. What I'll do is read his recommendation. Oh, absolutely, Brian, come forward, sure.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome.
Actually, it might be, it's almost evening. I think one of the things to remember at this stage in the project is the role of the Redevelopment Commission is to determine whether or not this project is in compliance with the redevelopment plan of the area. There are still multiple steps that are going to occur after this as this project continues through all the other review processes and what we often refer to as entitlement processes. This is, obviously we know the Cabela's is there now. The Woodmar Gateway, and it's an economic development area as opposed to a redevelopment area, Cabela's was the first project of that area, and this will be the second project in that area. And when the Redevelopment Commission's document was generated, there was a lot of goals that were laid out that the commission anticipated the type of development they wanted to occur. And some of the key phrases was looking for something that's going to serve the local and regional and transient consumers, obviously taking advantage of the access to the expressway. Something that's integrated functionally and aesthetically with the existing land uses and developments, and also looking into high standards of development and design. So that's really where it starts the basis of us looking at the architecture of this building. The other important thing is that, where this property is located, there's a lot of sensitive land issues, meaning the levee project, both the one along the river and then the tieback levee that goes north-south, that in essence was the protection point for Cabela's. It's also the level of the ground, and there is a drainage easement that runs through the center of this property. Some of those are the technical things that still need to be worked through. The presentation has already talked about the architectural elevations, the quick brick material that really became an important part of what we were looking at. And I think, as Phil's indicated, I think, from the staff standpoint, we are quite happy with what has been the final result of it. When it comes to the site, and this is where we start getting into some of the technical stuff, they're proposing that the first floor elevation is going to be at an elevation of 601 feet. That is something that is, in some respects, tied to the old floodplain elevation of the property. When the property was removed from the floodplain elevation is about, I think it's like 6 or 7 feet lower than that they're required to build at. They have chosen to elevate the property and to make sure it's safer, I guess, in case of flooding. And I think that's a very important, that's a good thing. In order to accomplish that, they're going to dig out and borrow land from adjacent to the store. And so that's where, if you looked at the site plan, you're going to see a very large area that's been excavated, and that dirt's being moved to raise the height of the building. Also in your packet, you think you were given some sightline elevations. What are the people on Northcott going to see when they look at the store? We had a lot of discussions of how much is the levee structure itself going to block the view, and how much when you elevate the structure and then the buildings above it, really how is that going to be perceived? So that's where a lot of the discussions occurred about the landscaping, trying to make sure that the trees are appropriate, will grow up tall enough, and when you're down low looking up, that there's an appropriate visual block. As far as the final recommendation from the staff that's concerned, there is a list of items that we have subject to. The one thing I do have to amend on this document is number 5. Based on, Burness and I just came from a discussion, and we identified one more item that would be a potential, or that is a BZA variance item. They are talking about a sign that will be located towards the intersection of Cabela Drive and Indianapolis Boulevard. This sign would serve as a directory sign for the rest of development, as well as, of course, for Walmart itself. There's an issue, or there was a factor back in the original developers agreement when Cabela's got its tall sign off the expressway, that there would only be an allowance for one additional sign greater than the 20 feet that's allowed by zoning. This will be that sign. We just have to go through the BZA process in order to get that height variance. So staff does recommend that the Redevelopment Commission make a determination that this proposed development is in compliance with the goals and objectives of the Woodmore Gateway Economic Development Plan, subject to the 8 items that are listed on page 2, with the modification of number 5 to include the sign variance.
So move on that.
Second.
Actually, let me stop you. We need to be a little bit more specific than that for the record. So if
I was going to read those things. When I had studied my packet,
Very good.
I saw about the brick, and I'm glad to hear about the elevation because I live in that area, so they're going to be even a more safe zone. But I could read the 8 recommendations there.
You just need to set it out as a formal motion. Develop the proposed development of, and then from there.
Can I read the 8 as well?
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion then for approval of the determination of compliance with Woodmark Gateway Economic Development Area Plan for Walmart, with subject to, number one, concurrence approval by the Army Corps that potential wetlands identified in the Huff and Huff study are not jurisdictional or appropriate mitigated. Number two, approval of IDNR and FEMA regarding the filling in, relocation of drainage ditch from the floodplain. Number three, resolution of drainage issues for Barrow area as identified by Donahue Associates, the consultant for the Hammond Sanitary District. Number four, approval of the subdivision plat and development plan for subject property by Plan Commission, including correction, handicap spaces layout. Number five, approval of development variance for seasonal garden center fence by the Board Zoning Appeals.
And
Also,
Be amended.
with the recommendation, with the sign,
I actually just say, and the sign height variance.
the sign I variance, height variance.
Height.
Approval of the fire department regarding hydrants and fire access. Approval of the water department regarding adequate water service. And approval of city engineering regarding of site drainage and detention.
I second that.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes. All commissioners approved.
Thank you.
Jennifer, is she here? Okay, let's go back to, number 7.
Commissioners, this is for the subordination request approval for the 3 applicants. Philip and Nicole are not here, and I did talk to them yesterday. They were expecting a baby, and he told me it was going to happen every day, any day now, so I don't know if that happened today. So maybe that's the reason why they're not here. But if we can get it approved and maybe have him show up at the next meeting,
Yes.
because I don't want his interest rate to rise. So I think they're saving like $100 a month with this. But Yanisha Graham and Jennifer and Edward, you want to come up? Yanisha?
Hello. Questions, commissioners? Discussion.
For Philip and Nicole Ford,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do some upgrades. What type of upgrades?
I did get one estimate so far. They're redoing their AC unit, and I think that came around $3,000. So they're doing some upgrades on their home, and we have to get proof of that as well. So
Okay, and then Miss Graham, she's just refinancing for a lower rate.
that's correct.
She's dropping 1.5%, huh? 1.5% drop in your rate. And then the other person's dropping 2%. And they're not taking any money out.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion for the subordination request approval for the 3 applicants.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
After the baby's born, ask her to please come by to see us.
I will.
Thank you. Okay. Number 11, determination of compliance with the North Hammond redevelopment area for Munster Steel at 1501 Coon Street.
Commissioners, we have the benefit of potentially approving 2 site plans for 2 major projects in the city on the same meeting. This determination of compliance is for the Munster Steel project. As you may recall, we approved a deal with Munster Steel, I believe it was at the end of 2011, where the Munster Steel facility will be relocating and constructing a new facility in Hammond at our West Point allocation area. Munster Steel knew for a while that they would have to leave the location in Munster due to a construction project that will occur in Munster someday in the future. But as you can see, they are ready to move forward with getting their site plan approved and start the process of constructing in Hammond. This project is approximately a $6 million project, and I believe Munster Steel had somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 current jobs, and they believe that with this project and the expansion of this new facility, that there would be the creation of approximately 40 new jobs by 2016, and their jobs have an annual wage of approximately $40,000, so they're good paying jobs in the city. We're excited about this project. We have been since 2011, and we have a consultant from Munster Steel here, Scott Olthoff, if you'd like to come forward, and you can ask some questions if you have any. And you have the site plan in your packet, so.
Welcome.
Good evening, Commission. I'm Scott Altoff, as Phil had said, with Core Construction. We're the builder of the project, but also been doing a lot of the front end work to get this project through approvals with the developer. But I'd be happy to answer any questions we've got. We're anxious to start, and hopefully with some of these approvals, we can get groundbreaking going and by mid-August.
This is a coup for Hammond. Get something from Munster.
The theme of today's meeting is that some projects like this can take a very long time, from discussion phase to getting to the point where they have a site plan prepared and ready to submit for this type of determination. Both Walmart and Munster Steel, we've been working with these companies for a very long time, and it's exciting to actually get to the point that we're here and hopefully moving forward with approval.
Absolutely.
Are you any relationship to the Holmes too?
No, sir. No relation. Actually, my name is spelled with, a little bit differently, so.
Questions? No discussion?
If you want, we can have our city planner, Brian Poland, come forward again. He wrote a recommendation,
We don't get to see you
so.
often enough. Welcome.
Come on up.
Twice in one day.
I think we planned it that way.
It's a good thing.
Yes, yes it is. Similar as before, the question before you is to determine compliance with the North Hammond redevelopment plan. As has been discussed, it's a 123,000 square foot steel fabrication building with a 5,760 square foot office building located in the West Point development. The Plan Commission last night just approved the subdivision plat for this, so that really helps along with the project. Getting back to the redevelopment plan, there's some general goals that are laid out in the plan. Talking about new employment opportunities, increasing the local tax base, and encouraging new investment. Obviously, this type of project will meet those. There's not really issues with that. The plan also talked about promoting, light industry, the industry as opposed to heavy industry. This is one of those, from a zoning standpoint, this is kind of on the edge of whether it's light or heavy. The property is still currently zoned I2, so heavy could go there. But the fact that this is a fabrication and it's a less intensive use, it really falls in the general category of light industry. One of the important things that the Commission needs to discuss for today in the approval process is something that comes out of the 2010 amendments to the North of Hammond plan. In that plan, the boundaries of the North Hammond redevelopment district were divided into sub-areas. In particular, this is the West Point sub-area. There was some additional language of what type of uses should go in there, and that's was hand in hand with what the other document has said. But the most other important thing about the 2010 amendments, it added in some architectural guideline language. And one of the things that was added in for new construction was that all new buildings were to have on their street-facing facade a minimum of 1/3 being in masonry. There was no definition as to what masonry is, but nonetheless, any of the types of masonry. That became one of the important discussions with this building. If I can borrow this drawing for a second, make sure we understand. Actually, you know what, I'm going to just do it this way. Hopefully you guys can see it. You should have this in your packet anyway. The front facade as defined is, as it goes around the, if you call this an H, the bottom part of the H, that's the front facade. We literally had a calculation of the height of the building, the linear distance of that, found that number. And then what they proposed was in this office building, and there's a little vestibule that connects to the main building. Again, it's literally the height and the linear distance of that. We looked at the math calculations, and they're proposed, all right, I'll put this back up. This area is proposed to be brick. The rest of it is not proposed to be brick. So we talked about, rather than literally having 1/3 of each facade brick, how do you redistribute that to still get the collective number, but maybe put it in a different place? Based on the math, however, the brick on the office building is somewhere slightly less than 50% of what they're required to have under the architectural guideline of the plan. So we talked about the appropriateness of that, looking at the location of the building, where it is in the city, literally at the edge of the city, whether it's on a prominent street or not. Those are a lot of factors, at least that was in my mind, as to what would be appropriate to how to deal with that brick requirement. And in that, we talked about if we agree or recommend to you to agree to lessen the brick requirement, what would be in exchange? What could we get in addition to what they would be otherwise required? One of the things that came out of the Plan Commission discussion over the plat was a concern of the neighborhood about noise and what they will see of this property. And those are the residents that are west of Columbia. So that's what led us to concerns about this western property line. And we suggested a row of evergreens, 25 feet on center, something that would grow up tall and full, provide a visual barrier, and to a limited extent, a sound barrier, or at least something that would stop the sound waves of any activities in the building. They are proposing green giant arborvitae, and I always mispronounce that word. And it became a question of, I'm not an expert in plants, but it became what an arborvitae to me normally is a plant that you put around a house and it's small. But when you look at the botanical information about this particular variety, it's a giant variety. It grows to 40 feet in height and 15 feet in diameter. So it ultimately, at full maturity, will be a very large tree. Part of the challenges of any type of planting is the soil types. We are talking about challenging soils here with a certain amount of slag and things like that. So we're hoping that any planting that goes there will survive. Obviously, there are plants there now surviving in the slag, but it's a matter of how the survivability of this plant, and it appears that this plant is much more adaptable in many environments than maybe a different particular plant. One of the other things we discussed in the alternatives is the driveways. There's been a real question of, does it make sense to pave all the driveways? Does it not? The city engineer has agreed that this asphalt shavings or aggregate would be a reasonable alternative. It does lead to the possibility of the generation of dust as to when a truck drives across it to generate dust. So it becomes an appropriate dust suppressant chemical. And that is something that has been looked at by HDEM, and between HDEM and the city engineer, they have agreed to what has been proposed. So as far as getting towards the recommendations, generally the project is in compliance, but one of the important things that you have to agree to is the reduction of the brick requirement and having the landscaping added in exchange for that. So the staff does recommend that the Redevelopment Commission make the determination that the proposed Munster Steel project is in compliance with the redevelopment plan, subject to, and I will read these now, the additional evergreen landscaping along the west property line is installed as proposed in exchange for the reduction in the masonry requirement, that the usage of the dust suppressant, and that's for that aggregate driveway, shall be in compliance with, of course, the appropriate regulations, which are the State of Indiana Air Pollution Control Regulations of 326 IAC, that's the Indiana Administrative Code, and Hammond Ordinance 7102 as amended. That the project meet all the technical requirements, which is a general statement. There's a lot of things that are out there just from a technical standpoint. Fire protection regulations, we still need to make sure the fire department's comfortable with the hydrant placements. And I'm going to add a number four because I forgot to write this, is that there is a requirement for a variance for the front yard. The front yard of the two parts of the H are proposed to be 30 feet. The zoning does require 50 feet. So they are actually in the process of trying to get that variance, but at this stage it would be, if you assume that you agreed with all this, it would be the fourth one that you're making, that's subject to this one as a fourth one.
Could you repeat the fourth point again, please? I'm sorry, the fan, I can't hear.
Yeah, I know, and I feel like every time I walk,
Sorry.
do this, the sound waves don't come out, so yeah. The fourth one would be subject to receiving the front yard variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Any questions? Mr. Poland?
Do we need a motion for that? Or do we want to discuss it further, or?
Yeah, any discussion? Questions? Mr. Coleman would be happy to answer.
I had just one question. I want to make, are we possibly doing, is that something with the brick though? Like
I'm sorry, what's the question?
gonna do something with the brick, like we're gonna maybe do less brick though?
Yeah, that's number one of the subject twos. That should cover that, doing that.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, if there's no further question, I'd like to make a motion for the determination of compliance with the North Hammond redevelopment area for Munster Steel. Can everybody hear me?
No, they
Okay,
can't.
let me say that again. Determination of compliance with the North Hammond redevelopment area for Munster Steel on 1501 Hewen Street, I'm sorry.
Second.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
It's subject to the conditions, you need to read the conditions as well.
Okay. Subject to the conditions, let's see, number one, additional evergreen landscaping along the west property line is installed as proposed in exchange for the reduction in the masonry requirement. Number two, that the usage of the dust suppressant shall be in compliance with the State of Indiana Air Pollution Control Regulation per 326 IAC and Hammond Ordinance 7102 as amended. And number 3, that the project meets all the technical requirements for applicable local and state codes and ordinances, including but not limited to fire protection regulations. And number 4, the variance for the front yard, the 30 feet. I believe that's what you said, right, Brian?
50 feet?
No, I,
She was 30 feet
230, okay, from 30 to
from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
BZA.
okay, so I need a,
Second.
can he second?
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Senator Presley?
Yes.
Naveja?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Upred?
Yes.
And Lambert?
Yes, motion passes. I'd like to, while we got a moment, I'd like to recognize 2 of our council members, Dan Vitale and Danny Burnett. Welcome. Okay.
Commissioners, thank you for finding the 2 projects and determining their compliance in the redevelopment areas. I think this is exciting. The Munster Steel project, as you may recall, and I'm not sure if all the commissioners were here in 2011 when we approved the agreement with the Munster Steel folks, this will not be the last agenda item because we, as part of our agreement with Munster Steel, there is incentives, and part of that has to do with the sale of a bond. So there will be some additional items coming up in the very near future, so just to prepare you for that. But we feel like the incentive that we gave for Munster Steel, we're going to very much see great benefit from the job creation, investment, and the ancillary economic development that'll happen around that area. So we're very excited about that project. I also want to point out, Pat Reardon is here, and Pat Reardon has been instrumental in helping this project from the very beginning. In fact, I believe he was the first contact that Munster Steel ever made when they were looking at different cities, and even though his capacity has changed a little bit, still today he's working very hard on this project, and I just want to, he happens to be in the crowd, and I think all the commissioners know Pat Reardon, but just wanted to point that out. If you want, I can have him come to the podium and give a bio of his life and things are going.
I would accept that, but I was cautioned in that your meetings are brief, so I'll say thank you, Phil, and sit down.
Thank you on behalf of your elder. Thank you so much.
Pat obviously has many, many years of experience with the city, and I lean on him quite a bit as an economic development consultant on a number of different projects in the city. So this won't be the last time you see him at Redevelopment Commission. On July 22nd at the City Council meeting, the Hammond City Council will be voting on the same development agreement that the Redevelopment Commission approved in June. So we're hoping for a favorable vote for the Flossmoor Station project. If things proceed there as hopefully they will, you're going to have really 4 major projects occurring in the city basically at the same time. And they won't be exactly at the same time, but with the Walmart, the Munster Steel, the Flossmoor Station, and the marina development, the things happening up north, we have a lot of activity going on in the city.
Yes,
It's very good, and it says 2 things. It says that, I think it says our mayor is doing a very good job as leader of the city, and it says that our council members are doing a very good job as leaders of our city, and that's why we have a lot of things that are happening today. So, I believe at this point that is all I have, other than Thursday. NERPC, I believe NERPC is going to make their final decision as to what city they will be relocating to. And I believe it's between 3 cities. It's either LaPorte, Portage, or Hammond. The disadvantage to Hammond, you could say, is because we are in the very northwest section of the county. However, you also could say that that's an advantage because of how close we are to Chicago, and that Chicago obviously plays a big role on economic development activity in Northwest Indiana, like it or not. So we're excited about the fact that we have been told that because of the presentation, because of the incentives that we've offered to NERC, that we have a shot of them relocating to downtown Hammond, and we know that that would be another shot in the arm in downtown, which we could use, and we hope that they make the decision to choose Hammond. So we'll find that out on Thursday. I believe that's it. I'll take any questions you have. Oh, that'll be in the new business.
Okay, any questions of Phil? That'll be new business. Okay, Ms. Owana Miller is not here with us. Okay, right along. Pay some bills. Number 13.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the register of claims for June 13th, 2013 through July 11th, 2013. Register of claims R48707 through R48863.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Southbridge?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Yes. Is
that the roll call?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Motion passes. I'm sorry.
We zoned there for a moment.
No, I was taking care of some other business.
No, I zoned for a
You
moment.
did? Okay. Number 14, new business and unfinished business.
Commissioners, we have 2 items for new business. Of course, I lost the first one, which is, thank you. One letter you have in front of you from K2 Industrial Services, which is also known as Manta. They are located in downtown Hammond at 5233 Holman Avenue. They're located in a building that we currently own, that we purchased from Manta. As you may recall, when we bought the building, when we purchased the building from Manta, we agreed to allow them to lease space there for a certain amount of time. Basically, what they have conveyed to me at this point is that although their lease expires on July 31st, they only need 1 additional month, and at that point, they'll be ready to completely move out of the building. So what they asked us to do is approve an additional month up to August 31st, 2013, based on the original terms of the agreement, which I believe was, at the time, we gave them a year lease with potential month-to-month extensions. So this is the building that at one time Planning and Development was talking about moving into downtown Hammond, and I think that's still a possibility. Obviously, we'll look at funding and see how quickly something like that will happen, but the fact that they're moving out at the end of August will make that project of potential again possible. So after all that, looking for a motion to extend their agreement until August 31st, 2013.
Madam President?
Yes, Commissioner.
I make a motion to extend K2 Industrial Services, also known as Manta's, request for an extension for 1 month to July 31st, 2013.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Lambert? I'm sorry, Southbridge?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes, motion passes. Anything else?
Commissioners, Dan Bowditch from our financial analyst, Sender and Company, who we chose through a RFQ process. Actually, we probably should have an RFQ process coming up in the near future, if my memory is correct. Prepared letters for the county that we have to submit on an annual basis in regards to our TIFs that the Redevelopment Commission obviously oversees. So we don't have a copy of the letters in front of us. It's a letter that you have to submit every year on an annual basis, and he sends it to me, I sign off of it, send it forward. Dan thought it would make sense to have a motion to approve the submission of the letter that he prepared to Lake County on behalf of the Hammond Redevelopment Commission.
Letter of compliance.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
you. Roll call, please.
Senate Presley?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Number 15, public comments, 3 minutes. Public comments?
You're going to give us your bio anyway?
Great. Pat Reardon, 2712 Sunnybrook Court, Cherville, Indiana. I thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Phil for the kind words and the commission for your applaud. As Phil stated in his comments, we've been involved with the Munster Steel project for an awful long time, and like all quality economic development projects, they take an awful long time. I'm not going to bore you with the details. I'm not going to talk to you about when we first visited them. Point, and this is a hallmark of Hammond. This is why Hammond is, as many of my friends and people learn as they come to the city, Hammond's a diamond in the rough. Not really, but that's their sentiment. Hammond's economic development team is broad, it's imaginative, it's tenacious. This commission is a part of that economic development team. The city council is a part of that economic development team. Consultants like myself, Dan Bowditch, have the privilege to be part of that team. And certainly with the mayor's leadership, projects that you heard discussed tonight, to steal his phrase, we stay the course and you push and you push and you push and they happen. So, thank you for your hard work and the opportunity to make these few comments.
Aren't you
very
a
much.
nice one? Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay. Anyone else? Number 16.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.